the world.
For the world.
To enjoy.
But we only have 3.
The best.
Most thrilling.
Most mystical.
Most funny.
But how will we start? Oh, with this.
What are you doing?
I'm cobbling.
Cobbling.
Yes, cobbling. I'm going to be a shoemaker for our first story.
Oh, okay. Shoemaker, right. How do you do that then?
Well, I do this. Flatten, cut, stitch and hammer. I flatten, cut, stitch and hammer. Flatten, cut, stitch and hammer.
Flatten, cut, stitch and hammer. Flatten, cut, stitch and hammer. The cobbler and the golden duck. Once there was a cobbler who was very young and poor,
Yes, he wasn't even a proper cobbler yet. He was still an apprentice.
which means he was still learning his trade.
But he worked very hard and very long hours, helping the master in his workshop. He would flatten, cut, stitch and hammer all day long.
And when he wasn't doing that,
Ding!
He was serving customers in his shop. Good morning, Mrs. Zelinsky.
oh, good evening, Lutek.
Zelinsky, Lutek.
Yes, they're Polish names. This story takes place in Poland.
Ah,
Mrs. Zelinsky was a regular customer who would come in to buy a new pair of shoes every time there was a party at the palace. Oh, she always danced so much that she wore the shoes right down.
Lutek went and fetched a beautifully handcrafted shoes.
all the while thinking what a wonderful life people like Zelinsky seemed to have, and all he ever did was work.
Lutek showed her the shoes.
Oh, they're perfect as ever, Lutek. Thank you. And she gave him 5 ducats.
5 ducats, that's not very much. What's that in euros?
Well, it was a long time ago, before euros. Things cost a lot less then.
But you're right, you still want a lot of money for all the hard work and skill he put in.
As Mrs. Zelinsky danced out of the shop,
And as Lutek went back to his workshop,
a strange, tall man entered. Ding! He was dressed in dapper clothes, the like of which Lutek had never seen before.
but the thing that Lutek noticed most about him was his pair of bright yellow boots.
That seemed to be glistening wet, even though it wasn't raining outside.
Good evening, said Lutek respectfully, not quite sure how to address the strange-looking man. How can I help you?
Oh, I'm just trying to stay out of the rain. Do you mind if I stand here for a bit?
Lutek peered round the man's log frame and through the shop window, but as much as he looked, he could see no rain.
Still, the master shoemaker had told him it was not good to contradict a customer, however wrong they might be. So he said,
Not at all, I'm just going back to finish this pair of shoes I'm working on.
Well, don't let me disturb you.
and just then, as if by magic, there was a loud thunderclap, and it started to pour with rain.
Lovely weather for ducks, he said, peering out through the shop door window.
It is, yes, but there aren't many ducks around here.
Now that's where you're wrong.
And he proceeded to tell this little tale.
There is, in the castle, a secret door that leads below the ground to a maze of tunnels, which in turn opens up to a great subterranean lake, as beautiful as any lake above the ground, with water as pure as crystal, so that those that know of it call it the Crystal Lake. And on it live all manners of birds, swans, geese, herons, but most importantly, a duck. A golden duck. Now, it is said that this duck is protecting all the treasures of that lake.
That's very odd, exclaimed Lutek, but he couldn't help but wonder if he might be able to find a golden duck and have the treasure for himself. Why are you telling me this?
No, I'm just trying to stay out of the rain, and I thought you might be interested. You look like a boy who's up for an adventure.
I might well be, said Lutek.
For truth be known, he was getting more and more intrigued by the talk of treasure. And the more he thought about how hard he worked and for so little reward.
The more the idea of the treasure appealed to him.
Well, it is said that it can only be discovered when there is a full moon. And it just so happens that there is going to be a full moon tonight.
And just then, as he peered out of the shop door window once more, the sky became dark, and over the castle rose a bright, beaming full moon.
As if by magic.
Oh, said Lutek rather feebly, because although he was ready for an adventure, he wasn't necessarily ready for adventure right this minute. But anyway, he had to go back to the shop and finish off a pair of shoes he's working on.
Well, it's up to you.
Said the man breezily, as if he didn't care what Lutek might do.
I do not care what you might do, Lieutenant. As I said, I'm just trying to stay out of the rain, make conversation, and it looks like... Yes, the rain has stopped. And just like that, he left as quickly as he had arrived.
Lutek was agitated. If he could find the golden duck and have even the smallest amount of treasure for himself, he would never have to worry about anything ever again. He can go to all the parties he wanted and wear all the finest clothes known to man.
Wouldn't that be good?
Oh, wouldn't that be better than working away night and day just to supply Mrs. Zelinsky with shoes so that she could have all the fun?
And before he knew it, his mind was made up.
My mind is made up. I'm going on an adventure. He went to the back of the shop, put on his coat and his toughest pair of boots.
Then he left a note for the master shoemaker who was out visiting some important customers.
The note read,
Gone on an adventure. Back soon, Lutek.
he couldn't think what else to write.
He locked the shop door and went straight into the night.
Following the higgledy-piggledy roads that led to the castle gate. Finally, he arrived.
So far, so good, he thought. But how is he going to get to this castle?
And then, as if by magic,
A single moonbeam fell upon a funny-looking mound of dirt that was not like any of the ground around the castle at all.
And there, below the dust and the dirt, was a wooden door. Thank you,
he
Moon.
cried as he pulled on the rusty door handle.
Oh, but it was very stiff and did not move that easily.
But finally, the door sprang open and he almost fell right inside.
Lutek started to walk down the long, dank tunnel until at the end were two other tunnels leading in different directions.
Which way should he go, he wailed.
Then he noticed that from one of the tunnels he could hear the sound of dripping water.
I am looking for a lake, and the lake is made of water, so maybe I'll go this way.
And he started off in the direction of the dripping water.
He came across many different tunnels, all while listening to the sound of water. But eventually, he turned a corner. And there, before him,
It was a great watery lake, as pure as crystal, with all sorts of birds on it.
how strange and beautiful it all was. Lutek stood there for a moment and stared.
Hello, I'm here.
Someone was calling his name, but that was impossible. How would anyone have known that he was here? But then he heard it again.
I'm here, come and talk to me.
Lutek looked out over the shore of the lake, and in the distance a golden glow. It was getting nearer and nearer, but very soon he had realized that it was a duck.
A golden duck. And as it swam towards him, it spoke.
Come closer, Lutek, and talk to me. It's so good of you to visit me.
Lutek couldn't believe what he was seeing. As the golden duck reached the shore of the lake, it eventually transformed into
A beautiful woman with long golden flowing hair that supported a shiny crown studded with jewels.
And over her flew a great chorus of birds, singing and crying and squawking in extraordinary harmony.
Come closer, Lutek, she said in a warm golden voice.
Lutek was dumbfounded. Who are you? He asked.
I am the princess of the lake, and I bring you gold as you were promised. You can have as much as you want.
Lutek's eyes lit up. He couldn't believe what he was seeing. All the gold that he wanted.
On one condition. I will give you this bag of golden ducats, but you must spend it all in one day.
That should be no problem, he laughed.
But you must spend it only on yourself and on no one else. If you manage to do that, you may return the next day and have as much gold as you desire.
And with that, she dropped the gold into his hands, and then turned, and in a great golden glow snow, transformed once again into the duck, with all of the other birds following her, beating their wings in unison, and singing out a song of incredible beauty.
If I am to spend this all in one day, I better get home and sleep and give myself plenty of time to rest tomorrow.
So with the bag of golden ducats in his hand, he found his way out of the maze of tunnels and back to the door at the side of the hill.
The night was dark and chilly when he stepped outside, and there was no longer a full moon shining, so it made it very difficult for him to find the right roads and alleys to lead him back to where he lived.
Which was a little hovel at the back of the shoe shop, where he had a tiny room with a narrow bed and a mattress with almost no stuffing left, so he could feel all the wooden struts underneath it.
But that night, he slept like a baby.
In the morning, he sprang right out of bed.
And washed his face with a jug of cold water.
And put on his best clothes that still had a few patches in them.
At least they were clean and did not smell.
Much.
What should he buy? He hardly knew where to start, but looking down at his sad attire, he knew that he needed some new clothes.
So grabbing his bag of golden ducats, he ran out of the door, out of the room, down the stairs, and into the street.
The city was bustling with life, and in his agitation to get to the clothes shop, Lutek bumped into person after person.
Careful, young man!
Sorry,
Where are you going?
sorry, yes indeed, sorry. Oops. Sorry.
Well, I never. Oh, young people nowadays.
Yes indeed, sorry, come through. Eventually, he arrived outside.
The finest clothes shop in town.
Inside was a stern-looking man, surrounded by the most beautiful swathes of cloth, all different colours and patterns.
Lutek pulled himself straight up and stuck out his chest.
He'd seen people do this, and it seemed to make them look important.
He swung the door right open and swept right inside.
The stern-looking man was horrified by the sight of Lutek. What are you doing here? He shouted. The tradesman entrance is in the back. Please leave. I have customers to consider.
But I am a customer, he replied, and I'm here to buy the finest clothes that you have.
And he flung his bag of golden ducats at the feet of this very unpleasant man.
Why, sir, he said, his voice turning to velvet and almost caressing Lutek with its attentive tones. Of course, let me measure you, and we can find exactly what it is that you want. And then he clapped his hands.
And from another corner of the shop, sprung another, smaller man, who with the help of a huge book proceeded to show Lutek different outfits and costumes.
This is fun, he thought. But he wasn't really sure if he really liked these people, for they only seemed to like him because he had so much money. But nevertheless, he chose several magnificent outfits.
But he was assured would be ready for him the very next day, seeing as his need was so great, and he had so many shiny, golden ducats.
He left the shop with his bag slightly emptier, but his heart full of happiness.
What should he buy next? He knew that he needed at least one decent pair of shoes.
So he bought not one, not two, but 3 brand new pairs of shoes.
Not from his master's shop.
Obviously.
Which was followed by lunch in a tavern where he ate all the food that he could eat.
Then, in a furniture store, he purchased a luxurious king-sized bed and a sumptuous mattress that would never fit in his old disheveled room.
Oh, and the most expensive wardrobe that he could find to hang all of his new and delicious outfits.
He bought a pair of magnificent horses and a carriage from a shop that he didn't even know existed.
He was having such fun. His head was as light as air, and his feet felt like they were barely touching the ground.
Then he had another huge meal in a different tavern, even though he wasn't hungry at all.
So this is what it's like to be rich, he thought. And then he decided to head back to his master's shop and tell him what had happened.
But just as he turned the corner, he heard a low, rough, weak voice.
Will you help a poor stranger, sir? 'Tis a cold night. I have no food to eat, nowhere to go.
Peter looked about him.
And down there on the pavement by the gutter was a poor, rumpled old man wearing a coat with more holes than buttons. He was dirty and his face was as thin as his weak voice.
Anything you have, sir. Anything at all, I would be most grateful.
It was a hideous sight, and it cut Lutek to the quick. He reached in his bag, saw that he had 1 golden coin left, and without even thinking, he took his hand in and plucked it out.
Without even thinking. Here you go, take this. Get some food and a good bed for tonight.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
The old man scurried off, and as he did so, Lutek caught sight of a glistening pair of yellow boots disappearing around the corner.
Suddenly, there was another cry of birds, and then a golden beam of light. And there, standing before him, was the golden woman from the lake.
Oh, Lutek!
What have you done? I told you that you could only spend the gold on yourself and on no one else. And you have given away that coin to a man that you don't even know. Now everything that you have bought is gone. You have no new clothes or shoes, no horses or carriage. Everything is lost!
Then there was another great cry of birds, but this time in awful disharmony, a dreadful plaintive sound that seemed to reverberate around the city, and then in a great golden flash that seemed to crack up in the very air. The woman was gone, and Lutek was alone.
Lutek knew this to be true, because suddenly he became incredibly hungry, as if he had not had a meal all day. The food from his stomach had disappeared and he was left ravenous. What have I done? What have I done? He cried, as he desperately tried to hold back the tears as he returned to his tiny hovel.
That night, he did not sleep, nor the next. He was haunted by what he had done, and all of the riches that he had given up.
But as the days went by, Lutek got back to working in the cobblers.
He flattened, cut, stitched and hammered and became a very skilled cobbler.
And when the master shoemaker died, Lutek took over his shop, and people came from all over the city.
All over the country, even.
To buy his shoes.
And although he never made as much money as he had in those few hours, he made enough to live well.
He would always respect every customer that came into his shop, no matter what they looked like. And he would always try to help the poor and the hungry.
Lutek was well respected in the city, and he was happy.
The only thing that people thought odd about Lutek was that he always wore a pair of shoes that he had made in bright yellow leather.
And only he knew the reason why.
The answer has been lost in time.
And time is like a river,
It flows ever on,
Past mountains through forests
cutting through villages and great cities,
and nothing can stop it.
until it reaches the ocean.
It is powerful.
And strong.
and has a lot of fish in it.
What time?
No, the river. The river has a lot of fish in it.
Well, way back in time, there was one fish in particular that was very important.
Yes, it was called
The salmon of knowledge.
Yeah, the salmon of knowledge. A long time ago,
There
A
was,
pool called Lynn Fake, which was part of the Great River Boyne.
and it was said that there swam a great, mighty fish.
A salmon.
but a very special salmon, for it was said that this fish had eaten the food of knowledge, and anyone who could catch it and eat its flesh.
Would become the wisest man and know all there was to know.
So it was that Finnegas, a poet and a thinker of great renown, stood at the banks of the pool, fishing rod in hand, trying to catch this elusive fish, as he had done for the last 7 years.
7 years.
Yes, 7 years.
He's not a very good fisherman then, is he?
Well, he's really more of a poet, and a thinker, actually.
Oh, what were his poems like?
Well, it had been prophesied that he would find the salmon of knowledge and be the wisest man in the whole of Ireland.
But hours turned to days, and days into years. And still Finnegas had nothing to show for all of the time that he'd stood at the banks of the Boyne. And he was beginning to get dispirited. Then one day, just after he had cast his line into the cold water for the 1,000th time, He spotted a young man coming along the riverbank towards him.
He was a fine, strong-looking young man,
with the confident air of youth.
and the happy smile on his face of someone who had not yet been visited by trouble or been truly tested by time.
The young man was intrigued to see Finnegas standing there with his rod and his rather disconsolate demeanour.
"Hello," he said brightly. "Lovely day for fishing. Have you caught anything yet?"
Finnegas looked at the young man closely, trying to see if he was actually being serious or simply teasing him.
For it was generally known around the area about the Salmon of Knowledge, surely the young boy knew.
Do you not know, said Finnegas, that I am Finnegas, and that I have been fishing for the Salmon of Knowledge for the last 7 years?
"No, I did not know," replied the youth earnestly. "But 7 years is a long time."
Finnegas was still slightly unsure if the boy was being sincere, but he did not have the air of someone who was prone to sarcasm.
It is so, you are right. As of yet I have had no success, but I am confident that I will do soon.
"Well, maybe I can help you. My name is Demna, and I would be happy to sit by your side, for I feel I have much to learn."
Finnegas was impressed by Demna's words, and so he invited him to stay, so that they might talk and consider matters of the world. Time passed.
Demna enjoyed listening to Finnegas' words, for they were full of meaning and beauty. He learnt a lot about the nature of things and his place in the world. Then one day, Finnegas looked over Linfay and saw a ripple in the water that grew into a light swell.
The Salmon of Knowledge, that must be it. Look how strong and powerful it is.
But sure enough, Demna saw the Salmon of Knowledge. It was all colours of the rainbow, swimming ferociously to the banks of the pool.
Demna was so impressed by the great fish that he could not help but stare straight at it.
Careful, called Finnegas. Make sure that you don't look into the eyes of the salmon, Demna, for if you do, you will fall asleep. Now quickly, fetch me my rod.
Demna ran as fast as he could to get the rod, and Finnegas cast a line into the turbulent water.
The salmon leapt out of the water, looked him straight in the eye, and Finnegas immediately fell asleep.
"Master!" he cried. "Wake up! Wake up!" And he slapped him so hard that he eventually woke up. And then he tore off a piece of his shirt and he tied it around Finnegas' eyes so that the salmon could not look at him.
The rod bent heavy as the salmon got caught and nearly dragged Finnegas into the water.
But the poet reeled it back out, and then back in again. A titanic struggle was taking place.
The battle went on all day, each looking to have won, only for the other to deny him victory at the last moment with a mighty effort of rod or fin. By dusk, both were exhausted, and finally, the salmon gave in. He could fight no more.
Get the net, boy, called Finnegas. He was so tired he could hardly form the words.
Demna brought Finnegas the net, and together they landed their incredible catch. Finnegas fell to the ground, utterly drained. He could barely move.
I must sleep, he whispered. But Demna, prepare the salmon over a fire. Just make sure that you don't eat or even taste any of it.
"I will not, of course," he replied. He respected the old man too much to deny him his right to eat the fish and to gain all the knowledge of the world.
Finnegas fell asleep as Demna made a fire and cooked the fish over it.
He was happy for his master, and he looked forward to having even deeper and more profound conversations with him once he'd eaten the fish. But just as he was turning it over one final time,
Small drop of burning oil spat out.
"Ow, on his thumb! Ow!" he cried, and he thrust the thumb into his mouth.
And just at that moment, Finnegas woke up and came over to the fire.
Finnegas looked at Demna and saw that his eyes were glowing. His face was radiating a strange warmth and calm.
Have you eaten the fish, Demna?
"No, I have not. I would never do such a thing to you."
Finnegas knew something had happened, for the boy was not the same. He seemed stronger and wiser, like a fully grown man.
Have you even had the smallest taste of it?
No, of course not. And then he remembered the splash of oil on his thumb, and how he had thrust it into his mouth. And he immediately knew that he had indeed tasted the salmon of knowledge, and that he had denied Finnegas what he had been patiently waiting for all those years. "I'm sorry," he cried. It was an accident. I didn't mean to."
Finnegas was not angry. Despite his disappointment, he was wise enough to know that the knowledge was meant for Demna and not for him. for Demna would become a great hero and a wise man.
I should call you Fionn, and I will happily help you and serve you as best I can.
And so, Fionn McCool did indeed grow to be a very wise man and a very great warrior who was celebrated in Ireland to this very day.
There are lots of different ways of being brave.
And there are lots of different ways of being wise.
And there are lots of different ways of being funny.
And this tale has a tail.
And the shell.
Monkey and tortoise.
Once there was a lion, a monkey, and a tortoise.
And there were lots of other animals as well.
Yes, there were lots of other animals, but this is a story about a monkey and a tortoise.
So no elephants?
No elephants.
And no hippopotamuses?
There are no hippopotamuses in this story.
Well,
So
that's a shame
once
because I
upon,
like hippopotamuses. They're big and funny and they have big bottoms.
no,
No?
there are no hippopotamuses in this story. So once
What about a
upon-
giraffe? Oh, I really like giraffes. Yeah, they have long legs and they walk like this.
Yeah, that's very good, but there are no giraffes in
Well,
this.
what about a lion? Oh, I love lions. They have a huge head and a great mane of hair and big paws and they can roar and be very, very scary.
Nope,
No.
nope, there are no giraffes, no elephants, no hippopotamuses, and definitely
Actually, there is a lion.
no. What?
Yes, in this story there is a lion.
Are you sure?
Yes, it's actually really important for the story.
Really?
Yes.
Haha. Really important. Roar!
So once there was a tortoise,
A monkey.
And a lion! Roar! Roar! It was a bright, hot and lovely day, and all was well with the world, and Monkey and Tortoise were walking about, talking and having fun as they always did.
for monkey and tortoise were the best of friends.
They walked through the trees.
And even climbed up some of the branches.
Well, Monkey did. Tortoise wasn't very good at climbing trees.
But he was good at other things,
Such as...
such as thinking, being clever, and very wise.
Oh, but that will get you a long way. I'd much rather be able to climb trees and swing from branch to branch, like this.
Yes, but it is important to think about things, you know.
Oh, I suppose so. I'm going to climb right to the top of this banana tree.
And with that,
Monkey.
flew to the top of the tree before Tortoise even had a chance to think about it.
That's a good idea, cried Tortoise. I am very hungry and I think a banana would go down well as a treat.
Oh, I'll throw you down a few to munch on.
Laughed Monkey.
Ooh, I can see all of the savannah and the river.
Yes, but throw me down a banana, I really am hungry.
But Monkey didn't hear him, or pretended not to.
Ooh, look, in the very distance I can see the mountains and the blue sky that holds up both the sun and the moon.
That's all very good, but I really am quite famished. Throw me down at least one banana, Monkey.
But once again, Monkey didn't hear him, and shouted down.
Oh, Tortoise, it's such a shame that you could not climb up this tree because, you know, the best view is really of these beautiful yellow bananas. They're so large and lush, and I'm just going to have to try one for you because you cannot climb up here and taste them. And with that, Monkey prized a large bunch of bananas from a branch and started to peel back the biggest one.
Tortoise looked up in despair. Seeing Monkey do this only made him hungrier. Oh, Monkey, Monkey, why are you teasing me like this? You are my best friend. Throw me down at least one banana.
But Monkey looked down at him and laughed. And then, with a little chuckle, gobbled up the rest of the bananas before Tortoise even had a chance to think about it.
Tortoise groaned.
And to make matters worse, as he did so, all of the banana skins tumbled from the branches and directly on top of his shell.
So that if you were walking by, you wouldn't even be able to see him.
Ah, I don't think that's a very nice thing to do. Not a very friendly thing to do. And if I think about it any longer, I might think you're being unkind to me, Monkey.
Oh, sorry, what's that
Oh yes, you appear to be hiding under a big bunch of banana skins, which is such a silly thing to do. I mean, it's really not very clever or wise thing to do. And Monkey started to take off the peel from Tortoise's shell. But as she peeled off the banana skins, she heard a strange sound coming from underneath. Then as Monkey took off the last banana skin, Tortoise exclaimed,
Amen, amen.
"What are you doing?"
I am praying, and you should pray as well.
"Whatever for?" asked Monkey, who was quite perturbed by this.
You should pray amen, lest you be punished for the things you've not done yet, Monkey.
And he proceeded to amen long and hard.
Amen, amen.
"I will do no such thing.
Amen.
Why would I ever do a silly thing like that?"
And she ran off, bouncing around without a care.
Then Tortoise watched her go. Slowly, very slowly, because tortoises are not the quickest creatures on the earth, proceeded to go home.
All the while thinking very hard indeed.
When Tortoise got home, straight away he made some akara.
Hold on. Akara? What's akara?
Akara is a bean cake. It is mashed beans. It is then deep fried. It is very delicious.
Oh.
Okay. He mashed the beans, added some salt and a bit of pepper. Then he heated the oil and fried the akara. It was perfect.
It's always perfect.
Only, instead of eating it, Tortoise did a very curious thing.
Tortoise waited for the akara to cool, covered all of it in honey, wrapped it up in a cloth and left the house.
How curious.
Tortoise walked along the path as the closest he could get to a spring in his step.
Tortoise had not walked far when in front of his path stepped a large, stately lion with big paws and a huge head and a great mane of hair. The lion let out a great and terrifying roar and padded up to Tortoise and peered down at him with his large, doleful eyes.
Tortoise,
He growled.
what are you doing out?
Oh, I'm just out on a walk, replied Tortoise nonchalantly. What are you doing, Lion?
Oh, I'm just out looking for something to eat. I'm in the mood for something sweet and tasty.
And as he peered down at Tortoise with a hungry look, a small drop of saliva fell on Tortoise's head.
Oh, I hope you're not planning on eating me, Lion. I'm not very tasty, and I know my shell would be very hard in your teeth. I don't think your dentist would recommend me as a meal.
Oh, really? Sighed Lion.
Why is it that everybody claims not to be very tasty?
Well, I'm as bitter as uncooked onions and as hard as a coconut, but I do have something you might like if you have a bit of a sweet tooth.
Oh, really? Said Lion.
Yes, really, replied Tortoise.
And he produced the akara that was wrapped in a cloth.
What is that?
Inquired a very curious lion.
Something incredibly special.
And he unwrapped the akara.
Something incredibly rare and hard to get a hold of. Would you like a try?
Well, if you think I'd like it, eating out can be so disappointing sometimes.
I assure you will like this. And choose Tortoise.
And he handed over to Lion a big piece of akara that was dripping with honey.
Lion lifted it with his huge paw and then stared at it for a moment. You are not tricking me, are you, Tortoise? Everybody knows that you are very clever and like tricking people.
I wouldn't. I couldn't. How could I? You're so big and strong, and I know you would eat me, even though I'm as bitter as uncooked onions and as hard as a coconut. But go on, give it a try and tell me what you think.
So, Lion tentatively lifted the honey-soaked akara to his lips.
He gave it a bit of a sniff, then a bit of a wobble, and finally a bit of a nibble.
He let it slowly trickle down his throat.
His eyes swiveled from side to side, then up and down.
Tortoise watched on tenterhooks.
And finally, Lion let out a gigantic...
Tortoise is nearly blown away.
Gorgeous, he roared. Absolutely gorgeous. That is the most delicious, most lovely, most gorgeous thing alive or dead that I have ever eaten.
And then he grabbed the honey-soaked akara off Tortoise and gobbled it all up until there was nothing left.
Then just for good measure, he ate the cloth as well, given us so much of the dish and soaked into it.
Tortoise up, brought him right in front of his face and stared him straight in the eyes. Now, you may not know this, but lions have incredibly bad breath.
Tortoise wanted to get away from the terrible stink, but worried that it might seem rude, so he stayed, trying not to breathe in too much.
What is this delicious dish?
Asked Lion, breathing all over poor Tortoise.
Well, still trembling, it's a dish that not many know of. Why, it is called Mer de Sange.
Mer de Sange? What is that?
Asked a perplexed Lion who had neither cooking nor French classes.
Why, Mer de Sange is monkey poo.
Monkey poo? Monkey poo! Then I must find a monkey and get it to give me some of its delicious poo.
Well, luckily for you, I do know where one lives, and they'd be happy to give you as much poo as you can eat. And Tortoise gave Lion instructions to Monkey's place.
Tortoise was flung down on the ground quite roughly.
And Lion bounded off hungry.
Without even saying thank you.
Now Monkey was just on her way out to climb a few more trees, or possibly have a bit more fun with Tortoise, when she bumped into Lion on her path. Oh, hello, Lion,
She said rather nervously, and she saw that Lion was looking at her in a strange way.
and had a smile on his face that she did not altogether trust. It's a lovely day for just walking around and climbing trees and not doing anything and not bothering anybody, don't you think?
Lion was indeed looking at Monkey in a strange way. For all he could think about was the beautiful red pie that he had just eaten, and was wondering how he can get some more from a monkey.
But he is a lion, and lions tend to do things in a certain, not always very amicable way. They are creatures that listen mostly to their stomachs. And so, without any to-do whatsoever, he whipped Monkey up by her long tail and dangled the beast high in the air.
Lion, what are you doing? Let me down! Let me down!
I will let you down when you poo for me, roared Lion.
What? Bawled the scared monkey. You want me to poo for you?
Yes, said Lion.
But I don't want to. I can't. I won't.
Well, then I will have to beat you until you do, roared an already frustrated Lion.
And Lion whacked Monkey on the stomach.
Lion, stop it!
I will stop when you poo for me!
And Lion continued to wallow and whack Monkey on the stomach.
But I don't want to. I can't. I won't. Oh.
Monkey was so scared of Lion and so disliked being beaten up on his stomach that, despite himself, and to his relief,
He did a big poo that fell to the ground.
Lion was overjoyed by the sight, and he dropped the beast to the ground.
And to Monkey's amazement, dug a paw deep into the poo and scooped out a pawful.
Plopped it into his slavering mouth.
Monkey looked on in amazement, not believing what she was seeing.
Lion, what are you doing?
Lion's face was beaming with delight. But then his face began to change. His smile turned upside down, nose scrunched up, and eyes bulged. He spluttered, spitting up poo everywhere.
Including a bit over Monkey.
What is that? That is disgusting. That is the worst thing I have ever eaten. That is not mer de sange. I want your sweet and delicious poo. And he pulled Monkey up again by the tail.
Proceeded to beat Monkey once more on the stomach.
Lion, please stop. I haven't done anything to you. I even pooed like you asked me to. Please stop. I don't deserve this punishment.
I will stop when you poo. I want your sweet poo, he roared. Sweet poo! And he shook Monkey and whacked him on the stomach.
But poo is not sweet, Lion.
And she started to pray.
And just then, another sound emerged from a nearby tree. It was the sound of laughter. Tortoise was watching all this madness and laughing his little wrinkled head off.
Lion heard this too, and turned and saw Tortoise. He immediately knew that he had been tricked, and too angry and humiliated to do anything about it, he dropped the poor creature to the ground and ran off into the savannah.
Tortoise was laughing and laughing. "Oh, monkey," he spluttered. He could hardly get any of the words through his laughter. "Now you see why you should pray, lest you be punished for the things you've not done yet, monkey."
Monkey was completely dejected and very chastened, and she didn't even really understand exactly what had happened.
And that is why, to this day, monkeys have flat stomachs and always cry. Stories.
Stories.
There are so many.
So many
Stories.
to tell.
So much fun.
So many tales.
And
Tales
In the world,
of the world.
for the world,
to enjoy.
Can we everybody clap it? This was about a tale from Africa. Clap, 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 clap.
This is a tale from Africa. You might spot a line on your camera. This is a tale from Africa. Monkey and tortoise in the savannah. This is a tale from Africa. You might spot a line on your camera. This is a tale from Africa. Monkey and tortoise in the savannah.
Live in the savannah, the monkeys in love with bananas. Under the sun where the lion lay, and everybody's watching from a different place. They don't want the lion to come out and play. Whenever he comes out, everybody's afraid. The tortoise, a monkey, they stay far away. They chase the lion, never want to give them a chase.
This is a tale from Africa. You might spot a line on your camera. This is a tale from Africa. Monkey and tortoise in the savannah. This is a tale from Africa. You might spot a line on your camera. This is a tale from Africa. Monkey and tortoise in the savannah. Under the tree where the lion lay, the monkey and tortoise they play all day. Tortoise told him to pray for
Everybody,
him, but the monkey was
let's go.
disobey.
Let's go.
This is a tale from Africa. You might spot a line on your camera. This is a tale from Africa. Monkey and tortoise in the savannah. This is a tale from Africa. You might spot a line on your camera. This is a tale from Africa. Monkey and tortoise in the savannah.
Well, were you entertained? Yeah. Very good. What was your favourite story?
Salmon and knowledge.
Salmon and knowledge. Yes? Favourite story, salmon and knowledge, yeah?
And the lion and the monkey.
You like the lion and the monkey. Oh, very good.
Monkey.
Lion and the monkey. Very good. Folks, thank you so much for coming. I just want to say that this play, the way we started this play was we asked people who've made Longford their home to tell us their favourite childhood stories, and the stories you saw here today, well, one is the Salmon of Knowledge, which most people here know, and the Lion and the Turtle, the Lion and the Tortoise came from a woman called Funke Adejeni, who originally comes from Nigeria, and she told us that story, among others. There was loads of crazy stories from Funke. And the goose, the golden goose from...
Duck.
The golden duck came from a lady called Barbara. Stand up there. Barbara Stachowska. Stachowska. Thank you very much.